Journey to the City of the King, an adaptation of Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Part 4. The Great Battle. Christian looked like a fine soldier, ready for anything. The armour that Watchful had given him fitted perfectly, as it was made especially for him by the king. As Christian was walking off, Watchful shouted, "Oh, by the way, another follower of the king has just passed by. He's from the City of Destruction. His name is Faithful. Do you know him?" "Yes, he was a neighbour of mine," shouted Christian. "Well, quick then, you'll catch up with him, and then you'll have company on your journey." Christian had not gone far when he saw a figure standing in the road some distance away. At first he thought it was Faithful and walked faster to catch up with him, but as he got nearer, he saw that it was a large, gruesome, ugly fiend, or to put it simply, a horrible monster. This was none other than the dreadful beast called Apollyon. He was a liar, a murderer, and an enemy of the king. The sight of him made the lions look like tame kittens. To be quite honest, it was the most frightening sight that Christian had ever seen. He was so frightened that he could hardly think, and his mind was filled with emptiness and dizziness. His heart was beating so strongly and so fast that his armour began to clatter, and his stomach felt so twisted that he thought he would die, and he even wished that he could be sick, but he was too frightened for that. He really wanted to turn back, but he remembered the words of Watchful, "There's no armour on your back." And so with his sword out and his shield up, he was determined to trust the king and walk boldly towards the great beast Apollyon.
"I would really like to know where you have come from," said Apollyon.
Now Christian didn't think Apollyon would speak to him, and speak to him in such a nice way. This really surprised Christian, so much that he felt rather embarrassed, standing there with his sword out and his shield up. "I'm from the City of Destruction," he said.
"Where are you going?"
"To the City of the King, the beautiful city."
"Perhaps you have forgotten that the City of Destruction belongs to me. Therefore, you are mine."
"I was yours, but now I am the king's, for I have given myself to him."
"Perhaps you have forgotten that I have every right to kill you for running away."
"I know the city belongs to you, and I know that at one time I belonged to you, but the king loves me, and he has set me free from your power, and I'd rather die in his service than serve you."
"I think you should turn back now, and I will forget your rebellion."
"The king took the weight off my back at the cross, and has given me peace, and I have given my life to him and sworn allegiance to him. If I go back now, I'd be a traitor."
"That's exactly what you've done to me."
"Yes, and I wish I'd done it sooner."
"But you've already been unfaithful to your king. You fell into Misery Marsh. You took the advice of Worldly Wiseman. You slept on the Hill of Difficulty. You left your role of assurance, which made you turn back. You were scared of the lions."
"All this is true, and much more you've left out. But unlike you, my new king is ready to forgive." Apollyon broke out into a fierce rage, spitting out fire and throwing his head back as if he was preparing to pounce on Christian and rip him to pieces.
I am an enemy of this king, he roared. I hate his laws. I hate him. I hate his people. I have come to take you back to the city of destruction that belongs to me.
Christian tightened up his belt of truth, held on tight to his shield of faith, and said, "Be careful, Apollyon, what you do. I am on the king's road, and I am in the king's service. Therefore watch your ways, for you are about to go one step too far." At this, Apollyon flung himself at Christian with a fierce rage, throwing darts as thick as rain. Some hit Christian and wounded him, and in his pain he fell to the ground. Apollyon, seizing this opportunity, jumped on him, and they rolled in vicious battle up and down the road for well over half an hour. Apollyon could see that Christian was growing weaker and weaker, and seizing his arm so hard that Christian lost his sword. "Now I have you," said Apollyon. At this, Christian stretched out his arm and could just about touch his sword, which gave him renewed hope. And that renewed hope gave him the strength to grip his sword. Quoting words from the king's book, he thrust the sword into the monster's body. Summoning all his strength, Christian rose to his feet, crying, "I am more than a conqueror through him that loved me." This made Apollyon cower, and he spread his dragon-like wings and flew away. The battle was over. Christian, breathing heavily, shouted loudly, "Thank you to the king!" And as he did so, he saw a beautiful tree with leaves which smelt of peace and healing. And with those leaves he rubbed his wounds, and found that he was refreshed and restored to full strength. "Onward, Christian! Onward, soldier!" he thought. To start with, his walk was pleasant, but then he noticed that the ground either side of the road began to rise until he found himself in a deep, dark valley. "I doubt if the sun ever shines in this valley," he said to himself. But those words echoed around the dark valley and came back to him. In fact, it was the strangest echo you've heard in your life, because not all the words echoed back, only the words, "I doubt." He wasn't sure whether they were an echo or he was actually speaking. It was horrible. "The king isn't good. He's tricking you." "Who said that?" shouted Christian. But the echo came back. "You said that. You said that. The king will tear you to pieces." "Did I say that?" And then he realized that this was another ploy of Apollyon to muddle him up and make him doubt. "I will trust the king at all times," he shouted as loudly as he could. And before his echo could come back, he shouted it out again. "I will thank the king for his love." And then he realized that you can get rid of bad thoughts by thinking about what is true and right and pure. He held on to his roll of assurance and asked the king out loud to guide his feet to tread the right path, and he raised up his shield of faith and walked ahead.